Welcome to CEOs Solve the Darndest Things, a video and podcast series of interviews with CEOs, hosted by the partners of the Resolve firm.
Hello and welcome to CEOs Solve the Darndest Things. I am Dr. Terry Dockery, and our guest today is Zach Wojohn. Zach is the CEO of Executive Parking Systems. Welcome, Zach.
Thank you for having me on the show, Terry. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad you can join us. Well, please, let's start off with, tell me a little bit about your company. What do you do for whom and where?
Well, we are a full-service parking management company. We provide parking management for your parking decks. We manage surface lots. We do large lease. Valet service is provided for restaurants throughout Atlanta. We're specifically detailed to Atlanta to keep our quality of service consistent. One of the best things I think that we're doing right now is pioneering different products that we can do to improve our industry.
All right, very good. Well, how did you get to be an entrepreneur, and more specifically, how did you wind up in this industry?
Well, I started off pretty much a broke college student, driving back and forth from Georgia Southern University to Atlanta. Took the earliest class I could on Friday. Worked Friday night chops, Saturday a double at Atlanta Fish Market, Sunday brunch at Buckhead Diner, and then back to Statesboro I went. And figured out that after a while, I kind of was running the owner of the business for him at a very young age, and it gave me the idea of entrepreneur.
Well, all right then. And so, and you've been at this, how long have you been an entrepreneur?
Well, I started my first business probably 16 years old with landscaping, and then I went into Valet at 18 years old. And by the time I was 21, I realized that I was able to operate the parking and keep a consistent level of service, and that's when Executive Parking Systems was born.
All right. Well, what parts of the role, your career, what parts do you like most these days?
Well, it's always nice to not have to stand in the rain and the heat, valeting cars like I did for 15 years. But for the most part, I would say my role right now as CEO has been good. I've got a really good team. I believe in them. I think the role it's kind of like parenting in a way. If you want to say that, I'm a younger parent. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and one of the things that I've learned is there's several stages of parenting, several different roles that you have to play through that. And right now, I feel like I'm kind of graduating from a parent that's teaching children how to do things. Not that I'm calling anybody at my firm a child, but I've definitely had to mentor some of the valets into management positions. And right now, I feel like one of our best positions is just being support, making sure that we're there and giving the back of the house that's needed to help service our clients.
Right. Well, I don't know anybody who loves every aspect of their job. So what parts of your role today do you enjoy the least?
Well, it's always hard to deal with claims. If we damage somebody's car, it's hard to deal with. We've been fighting a lot of criminal activity here in Atlanta. Stolen vehicles, valet boxes being broken into. That was probably one of our biggest problems before the coronavirus came out. Every parking company in the city was having to pay an extra labor hour each hour because we had to keep somebody manning the valet podiums to keep them from being broken into, so the thieves could get away with the cars.
Wow. Well, how about what we call in our business, we call them conundrums, or business problems or challenges that we all face along the way. What would you say is one of the business conundrums you've wrestled with and come to some good conclusion on?
Well, I'm going to go back to security. The biggest conundrum that we've had as an industry or executive as a whole, we have a good labor force. We have a great team. We have around 150 employees here in Atlanta. But security has been our biggest issue, our conundrum. And definitely working to fix that issue. Consistency in training and awareness and working with the APD has been another part. But overall, the conundrums are pretty basic when it comes to parking. You've got to make sure that the consistency of experience is there. You've got to make sure that you're delivering. It's hard to call a service a product, but at the end of the day, it is a product for us. So the conundrums are keeping a solid level of service, the product that we produce for our clients, and the security of the vehicles that we have in storage.
Well, my understanding is this with the downtime or the time to be thinking strategically during this whole Corona thing, that you have looked at some different products and services to maybe add to diversify your offerings.
Yes, we have. Well, it was built out of necessity. We had a $147,000 Porsche stolen from us from a restaurant here in Atlanta, and they used common hand tools to get into the valet podium. So I began to research what other options were out there after we had 3 in a row, literally within 72 hours, and $20,000+ deductibles tied to each one. So got pretty curious about what was out there and found there just was not a solid valet podium that could withstand an attack available on the market. So we partnered with a company called Henry Incorporated out of Decatur, Georgia. They're one of the largest metal fabricators in the Southeast. We have created a new company together. It's called the Valet Vault. To give you an idea of the difference, it takes around 50 to 100 pounds maximum to get into our competing products. Our product takes 1,000 pounds to pull and we had to bolt it to the floor because we couldn't put enough weight in it. So we had to actually bolt it to the ground to do the scientific test, and it takes over 1,000 pounds to open our door. The product is industrial grade aluminum. It is 1 grade below military grade, which is what they put in armored personnel carriers. So your product also won't rust. I was going through a podium about every 18 to 24 months, best case scenario, depending on whether or not it had shelter. It's 16 gauge steel. It just rusts out. And, so we were having to replace that. I guess that's the business model. But we went with aluminum, something that would last and something that could withstand an attack. We're UL rated for electric. We're UL rated for water. And we are working with UL on trying to get a UL rating for burglary, but they don't have a valet podium. And we're not trying to call ourselves a gun safe, so we're not going to put ourselves against that, but we're pretty darn close.
Wow. So then the advantages to folks are it's more secure, it's more user-friendly, it's obviously the safety and security, especially of the vehicles, which as you it's obvious that's your biggest liability or potential liability. So
yes, for sure. I mean, there's always the chance that Jimmy could drive over somebody's foot, but there's much more likelihood in this market that we encounter theft, whether it's a smash and grab where they smash windows and grab things out of the back seat. Anytime somebody uses valet service, they should always take it upon themselves. It's on the tickets. Most people don't read them, but it's actually on the ticket that there's no bailment created. It's a license to park that vehicle. So if you leave your laptop in the back seat and a busy valet's got 20 other cars to park that are all waiting, he doesn't have the ability to stop and put your laptop in your trunk for you. And then when you come out and your window's bashed in, well, that's a problem. And that's kind of the one of the common denominator issues is people use the valet service and they don't consider the fact that they need to secure items. But now the cars themselves, the keys, have become just as easy of a target, especially here in Atlanta. They've created the chief police is, Erica Shields is great. I know her well. She's a very nice and excellent chief of police. But, the mayor's instituted a no chase policy, and that created a lot of opportunity for criminals. The Porsche that we had stolen from that restaurant, the valet or the Audi that the thief showed up in, was also a stolen vehicle from another valet location. It wasn't ours, but it was another valet location. So he had enough time to steal an Audi A6 and drive around Buckhead to find another valet station with a better car to upgrade and then stole our car using, again, common hand tools. It was a flathead screwdriver he pulled the door open with.
My goodness. Well, one thing we were talking about earlier, that if you wouldn't mind saying a few words, you were talking about how to be an excellent valet and get better tips. And I found that fascinating, having spent, we coach salespeople and service people all the time. And I thought you made some great points about that. And you told me that you would literally show valets how to do the things that would result in better service and better tips. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, it comes back to help the guys out at the end of the day. Anybody that watches this will appreciate it. Maybe consider changing the tip in their hand. So one of the things that, valets we are paid like waiters. If you have a legitimate operator who W-2s everybody, which we do. But, they're looking for a gratuity level that they can sustain at least $11 to $15 an hour on average. And, so when somebody comes out of a nice restaurant and they have $2 in their hand, when I was training valets in person, I would tell them, look, I'm going to turn that $2 into a 5 or a 10. And, you do simple things. Hey, Mr. Dockery, how was your dinner tonight? Oh, you have a to-go bag. May I take your to-go bag and you put it on the floorboard in the back seat for them. You make sure that you help the wife, girlfriend, daughter, whatever it is, open the passenger door. And then, as Mr. Dockery goes to get into his car, you want to do something nice for him. He needs to take off his sport coat. You help him with it. You put it on his hook hanger in the back, and you make sure that you have a positive exchange with the driver. And 95% of the time, you find the level of service that you provide is directly reflected in the gratuity, obviously. So you see the $2 get put back in their pocket, a billfold gets pulled out, and a $5 or a $10 gratuity level all of a sudden generates. And when you show this to guys that are 18 to 25 years old, this is really probably one of their first sales experiences. So, it's all about customer interaction. It's all about how the behavior of in your body language is, and the use of somebody's name, is you really have 30 seconds to establish the trust. I mean, a vehicle is usually your second most valuable asset. And I have, as a valet, I have roughly 30 seconds to earn your trust, get your name, try to get you to remember mine. Something like, hi, welcome to dinner, and Mr. Dockery, my name is Zach. If there's anything you need while you're in the restaurant, just let me know. That way there becomes some kind of recognition between you and the client or the client's guests, and which in turn are our guests as well. And that's a lot of it, is just making sure that you have the interaction proper and that your body language is good, your tone is positive, and you relay that. And when you are able to do that on a consistent basis, I've watched some of these younger guys that pick it up and they really absorb it. And all of a sudden they're some of the, it's funny to look at the tip pools as they get generated, and you see how much more some of these guys are making than the others, because they're using such simple techniques. But it's interesting. It just happens. People will see it, they look at it, and they recognize the value of the service versus, come into the car, hey, here's your ticket. And then I'm running, go on into dinner, and Mr. Dockery doesn't know his name. The valet doesn't know your name. The whole thing's screwed up. The exchange is lost.
Right. Well, as you look down the pike, Zach, and by the way, that sounds like great tips for getting tips. So as you look down the pike, what kind of trends are you paying attention to? I mean, obviously we have this Corona thing going on, but we're going to move through that in some way. There'll be some kind of new normal. What trends are you paying attention to that you think might impact or shape your business in the future?
Well, rideshare was definitely one of the biggest problems for us as an industry. The coronavirus, I definitely want to say there's nothing good that comes out of the coronavirus, but there's a big uptick in the volume of vehicles that we're parking, because Uber is essentially, in a rideshare, any of them is essentially, that's supposed to be a community resource, and that's the whole idea behind the application. But for now, people are being much more cautious about what they're exposing themselves to and how they can limit it. So, for example, the Capitol Grill, they were one of our first clients to open, and Darden Restaurants is being very, very careful with the way they're running and opening their stores. And so for us to see the huge drop in the amount of rideshare that's being used is going to be a big change for our model, because we had adopted to roughly a 35% drop. We're actually in the middle, even during the coronavirus times, as the lights are turning back on here in Georgia, we're hiring more and more people, because where we had a 35% decrease or rideshare factor in a pro forma on a weekly basis of what we expected to need, based on the open table reservations in the system for our clients, we were able to figure out that, we need to start staffing an extra person because rideshare is so much less. So that's a trend right now that I'm interested to see if that sustains. I think that it will probably revert back, because nobody likes to get a DUI and everybody usually has a couple drinks at dinner. But for right now, that's something that we're going to have to address.
Right. Well, that's good. Well, I sure appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And of course, we wish you the best in all your future endeavors, and we'll all hope there'll be great things in store for the future.
Well, I appreciate you having me on again. I really do. It means a lot.
You take care.